Hi, everybody. We'll start in 1 minute. We're giving people a chance to get in, and then we'll turn it over to Steve and me for a great talk on Presto.
Thank you, Robert. Thanks for having me. It's really great to be here and a great conference so far.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. So while we're waiting for those of you who are listening, we'd love to expand this. We're just trying to create a community event around analytics, make it as open as possible, make it as diverse as possible. I love to hear your thoughts about how to expand this. We think there's a great conversation to have, by sharing between all these different projects and applications. Okay, Stephen, I would say it looks like it's 2 minutes after the hour. Go ahead, and I'll be in the background. I'll give you a warning when you're approaching the end of the warning track.
Fantastic. Thank you, Robert, again for the invitation, and really thrilled to be here at OSA Con 2022. I'm Stephen Mee. I'm co-founder and CEO of Ahana, and I'll be talking about the wildly popular open source Presto project and how it can be used for your fast open SQL Lakehouse. So I'll go over a brief overview of me, introduction, talk a little bit about Presto for just a quick overview, and then we'll discuss this new concept of the open SQL Lakehouse and discuss some of the innovations that are happening in this area. Okay, let's get started. So first, I'm Stephen. I'm also representative of the Presto Foundation, which we contribute to the community. We talk about the Presto being used in the wild. And I work for Ahana. I'm the co-founder of the company that also offers a managed service for Presto, making it very easy to run. And we're a bunch of Presto and database experts from a lot of companies that Presto came out of. Presto Foundation is a sister organization to CNCF, Cloud Native Computer Foundation, which is underneath and hosted by the Linux Foundation. So let's go on. Presto is a distributed SQL query engine, and it allows you to have any front-end BI tool or other client that speaks JDBC or ODBC. And there's great examples here, including like Max's Apache Superset. But you can run Tableau, Looker, any tool that has a SQL interface to it. And that then works with Presto, which has a cluster of Presto would have a coordinator node and any n number of worker nodes. And it's in-memory SQL engine that runs very, very fast and very reliably. And then you can run it on any data sources. And so at the bottom here, we have AWS S3 or any S3 variants, whether that be like an MinIO S3 or Google Compute Store, Azure Blob, et cetera. And it can connect to, it has pluggable connectors to any other data source too. Okay, so that's a little bit of background of Presto. And the Presto is an open source project that's part of the Linux Foundation and a very vibrant community, as you'd expect. Hundreds of thousands of Docker pulls, hundreds of contributors, thousands of Slack members, Meetup members around the world, and tens of thousands of GitHub stars. So we welcome everyone to join in the community. And this is because Presto is part of the Linux Foundation. And I think we heard earlier at the one panel session with Doug Cutting and David Nally and Robert Hodges and Max. It was great to hear the discussion because there's projects that are openly, most of them are all Apache 2.0 licensed. And what they were saying was that it may not be enough just to be Apache 2.0 licensed, which is the most permissive license, but the governance is becoming more and more important. And so Linux Foundation hosts Presto. It was donated by Meta, Facebook originally, who are the creators of Presto. And as a result, there's a number of companies that are involved in Presto Foundation, all working towards using it, developing solutions with it, and everything else. There's a little bit of the structure, but some of the guiding principles are that this is a open community oriented project, that the bylaws prevent any changes to the licensing. It can't be the type of beta switch that was discussed in that panel session. So I thought I'd just bring this up because this is unique to Linux Foundation Presto. Okay, now let's talk about what's happening in one part of the analytics world. there is most of the workhorse for analytics has been in the data warehouse side of things. And this is one way to do it. Typically, it tends to be more proprietary, more closed source, meaning that it's got proprietary storage. You have to ingest your data into it, and it has query processing, which is the compute side of it. So separated compute and storage. And then you'll run your reporting and dashboarding workloads on top of that. So what's happening is a new architectural shift that is either augmenting or a new one to move forward with, which is known as the Open Data Lakehouse. And this is a whole new category of which Presto is a part of. And I'll talk about the different options in this area. But you can think about a lot of data is pooling in the data lakes. And typically people are using open file formats as well as open table types. And and using something like an object store underneath it. And so you have all your operational workloads. It gets moved into a S3 based bucket. And then you'll have it in formats like Parquet, ORC, and then table types such as Apache Hudi, Apache Iceberg, or Delta Lake. And these are all open and give you the ability to then work with it flexibly with a SQL query processing engines like Presto. And there's other ways you can use other non-SQL types of workloads, ML and AI frameworks like TensorFlow, Ray, so many great open source compute engines that are out there. Of course, the Lakehouse has to have all of your governance and discovery and security all there too. So this is some of the shift that's taking place. And some people, nowadays you can use a cloud data warehouse for some of your workloads and use Open Data Lakehouse for other parts of your workloads. For today's talk, I'll be focusing on the SQL side, which is this dotted line, the dotted rectangle. And that's the stack that I'll be sharing some perspectives on. It also needs to include the governance, discovery, and security. So that's what this looks like. Now, when we talk to many of our customers and users, what we find out is as they look at their replatforming or their next generation data platform, they know that there's going to be a lot more data that's generated, and there's also going to be a lot more data-driven insights that's needed to stay competitive. As companies get more and more successful, there's more and more data that they're going to collect, and to be competitive, they are going to make data-driven decisions. And so data platform teams are usually the ones that have to are responsible for pulling together the data and providing a platform to consume it in a way that drives value. A lot of that is for the end users, and it could be applications, but just some of the end user care abouts are they care about not having delays for data requests. They also care about the user experience. Sometimes the SQL dialects can be different, and they can find inconsistent results depending on what platform they're using and what subsystem they may be using. And of course, they don't want to wait for a long time if there's a query that they're looking to get an answer for. On the platform infrastructure side, there's also some very big issues and care abouts. One is the compute costs and how do you control those costs? As you know, the storage and the compute are now separated. And so storage, I would argue, is somewhat commodified. And S3 based systems are probably the most inexpensive, easiest, and infinite place to put all of your data. Now what's left is you've got all your EC2 compute or other compute instances that are needed, and that's still a big part of your bill. And associated with that is whether you have a locked-in system or if you're in a more open case where you have competition, you have alternatives, and that's something that you ought to be thinking about. Security is another aspect to make sure that there's access controls, ability to audit this, and then future-proofing. You want to have an architecture that can scale with the business as you grow from terabytes to petabytes of data, and then being able to run SQL against that. And then not only just the interactive and batch workloads for SQL, but then there's those other flexible workloads that we talked about. ML, streaming, near real time, all matter in this. So that's why, if we now take a look at what we had before, I'm just putting onto the right a little bit of different structure. Let's talk about what the SQL Lakehouse components are. There's four big components here. Once you have your operational data sources and ingested into your data lake, you have the data lake storage formats. You have the storage itself, but then the file formats and the table types. Number one, then you also have the SQL query engine, and there's a number of different SQL query engines that are out there. Number three, metadata catalog, there's a handful. And number four, there's access controls such as Presto, Ranger, and AWS Lake Formation. Don't worry if I didn't capture your logo in here. There's many in each of these areas, open ones and proprietary ones. And I'll just say that you can, it's a very exciting, innovative area where most people are still just at the beginnings of really deploying what does it mean to run SQL on their S3 lake. And they're adding more of the table types to this. Certainly Apache Hudi, Iceberg, and Delta have a lot of interest for that table type area. So it's very exciting. Now, what I'll say is as you think about using Presto, Presto is in that spot there for SQL Query Engine. Why is that? Well, let's focus on the biggest cost for you of your lakehouse is going to end up being the compute. That's my proposition to you. And in doing so, you need to think about, well, what's the most efficient system that you can use for compute? That's the thing that's taking the SQL queries and running that in your distributed compute cluster that's then getting the data from the data sources. And guess what? Presto is run at huge scale, very reliably and very cost effectively. And I'll just say that it runs at any scale because you get this type of technology for small clusters or very large cluster. Uber has 20 clusters, 8,000 nodes, and running millions and millions of queries per day on 50 petabytes of data. Meta has 300 petabytes of data. And ByteDance, which is the company behind TikTok, they talked at the Presto Con event that has 1 million queries a day. And so these are all folks that are developing against Presto, putting that in the open source as a whole consortium in the Presto Foundation. And so our view is I'd submit to you that Presto is delivering the most open performant compute processing you can for analytics. Let's talk about some of the technology underneath the hood and some of the highlights there that's only in Linux Foundation Presto. So Project Aria, this is a technology that does push downs of entire expressions for things that have, if you're doing table scans, it makes it very, very much more efficient. Project Presto Unlimited, this is talks about making sure that you have better performance by using less memory. Caching with RaptorX. This is a multi-level cache I'll talk about in the next slide, including Luxio Lite in there. Disaggregated coordinator. This is to remove the single point of failure associated with the coordinator node. You saw it was just one node there, but now you can have multiple and increase the number of nodes in a cluster. ETL with Presto on Spark, also only available in Linux Foundation Presto, and user-defined functions. I'd say that that's probably not only in Linux Foundation Presto, so you can assume that that one is in some other systems too. So these are some of the things that a lot of people may not have heard of, but we're driving the technology forward in a big way. And let's just jump into one of these, RaptorX caching. And so this is a multi-level, multiple caches all in Presto, such as the Metastore version cache, the file list cache, the IO based cache. And what the result is that this is a TPC-H benchmark using Presto with and without the cache. Lower is faster, and it's just a lot lower latency by using this, only in Linux Foundation Presto. Now, the next section I want to just spend a couple of minutes going over is the upcoming innovations, and this happens to do with the VLOX open source project that is coming out of Meta. And it has to do with the following. VLOX is a native C++ database acceleration library. And it allows you, it's designed to be reusable and extensible to be used in many, many different systems. And it was created by Meta, built by Meta in partnership with Ahana, Intel, and ByteDance as folks that have been early in the project. And what this is about is that making DBMSs takes a lot of effort, hundreds of person years of effort. And my background, I've been in open source database companies like Couchbase, and I've been in Alexio, and there's a lot of technology that has to be built over and over again, but they're slightly different in the way they're done. And Meta did a phenomenal job in seeing that, wow, we use all these open source technologies, many of them. And in fact, there can be an abstraction that can occur at certain levels. And so this was written into a talk with that was given at the LDB 2022, just a couple months ago. And it was launched by Pedro and the team there at Meta. And it was just a great talk about how this allows state-of-the-art database technology to move the industry forward. And so great involvement with open source contributors. Meta has been fantastic to work with on this project, and we're excited to be pulling this into Presto over time. It's still in its early stages. But this is what it looks like in terms of the typical data engine architecture. Has a language front end, an IR, optimizer. There's generally some categorizations. It's not perfect, but then execution engine and execution runtime. And so if you think about this, you've got Presto, SQL dialect, intermediate representation, optimizer, worker, runtime. Spark has something similar. Over here, though, now VLOX can be put in and bring state-of-the-art database technology to those projects seamlessly. And this is the blog that they launched just a little over a month ago that really brought it out of stealth. And some of the results from that paper talk about the speed up between the two. This is the today's version in Java versus the C++ version. And this is some early results here. And we're seeing the majority of queries on a certain test workloads go from 6 to 10 times faster. So pretty exciting stuff. And I wanted just to bring this up. Again, open source project. We encourage everyone to join the Presto and the VLOX projects. Lastly, we're doing a Presto Con, this Linux Foundation event, just like KubeCon, Presto Con. It's coming up in a month, just about 3.5 weeks away, December 7th and 8th. The agenda has workshops. If you're just learning about Presto, want to get hands-on, come to the workshops on that day. And there's also some developer talks around how to contribute to the Presto project, making that easier and easier for different connectors and whatnot. The Thursday is the big main day. That's going to be all the keynotes, breakout sessions, sponsor showcase, talks from Meta, Uber, Twitter, Alibaba. Those are founding members of the Presto Foundation, talks from big users like Rippling, Twilio. We've got other vendors that are talking, Upsolver and OneHouse, Ahana will be talking. So we're really just excited about this. And I wanted to let you know that for OSA viewers, $25 registration. And this gets you 2 days, or you could just come to the one day. That includes breakfast, lunch, and a great party, great networking. PrestoCon 25 just got registered before November 21st. And there's the link to get there. So really hope to see you all if you can make it. And if you have been affected by any of the hard times, just drop a line to Presto or to us, and we'll get you in for free. All right, that was it. I really appreciate your time today, and please consider Presto for your fast open SQL Lakehouse. Cheers, everyone.
Thanks, Stephen. You hit the timing perfectly. You got a question up here. Why would I use Presto versus Trino? Maybe you can talk a little bit about the differences there.
Yeah, sure. So I covered the technology differences. The things that I talked about, other than the UDFs, are all in Presto. And so I encourage you to try both and see what that does for you. Otherwise, there's also the governance. And so if you care about open, that would be some of the most open you can get is with the Presto Foundation. And that's under the Linux Foundation. Another question there? I guess I can pull up my chat here.
I don't see another one
Okay.
right there. So answer is substantially similar, differences in governance. But
Yeah, yeah.
Good.
Well, it'll get more and more different over time, of course. And
Yep.
that was the fork of Presto, and it's run by primarily governed by one company, and that's different than the Linux Foundation Presto. Yes.
Yeah, I had a question. I wonder how much uptake are you seeing of Delta Lake? Because
Oh,
it's
a lot. Yeah, yeah. We think that there's just so much excitement in that area across Delta Lake, across Apache Hoodie and Iceberg. And so my suggestion is to look at the companies that are involved with developing those projects to see which ones you want to adopt. I interrupted you, Robert. Is there an add-on or a comment you were
well,
adding?
yeah, I'm just wondering if you see a winner, because there's several of these open formats. Um, is there a winner emerging in those, or are they just existing as peers or different use
I think
cases?
I believe in polyglot persistence. There's such a big area that there's not winner take all, and so the jury's out on that.
Okay.
We think that there's some exciting stuff that Apache Hoodie is doing. I think it's got very open governance and a lot of different companies involved with it. But they're all great projects, and
Thank
Presto
you very
works with
much.
all of them. Yeah.
Good. Any other questions from the crowd here? We got other talks coming up. Don't want to hold you back, but we'll hold it open if additional questions come up. Okay, don't see anything coming up. Stephen, thank you so much for the presentation. Look forward to seeing you again soon. And yeah, everybody have a great day and enjoy the rest of the talks.
Cheers. Thank you, Robert.
All right, talk to you
Bye.
soon. Bye-bye.